We usually think of creativity as this big flash of inspiration, right? A super vivid picture just popping into our heads. But what if your mind doesn't make pictures? Like, at all? Today, we're going to dive into a totally fascinating way of thinking and see how it shapes the way people build entire worlds, both in science and, believe it or not, in fiction.
So, to kick things off, I want you to try a little experiment with me, right now. Just close your eyes for a second. Go on. Seriously, do it. Now, try to picture a simple five-pointed red star. Got it? What do you see? Okay, you can open your eyes. Now, I'm guessing some of you saw a brilliant red star. Maybe it was sharp and clear, maybe a little fuzzy around the edges. But for others, there was probably nothing, just black. Maybe the idea of a red star, the concept of it, but no actual image. If you're in that second group, the one that saw nothing but blackness, you might have just learned something new about the way your brain is wired. And I promise you, you are far from alone. This whole experience actually has a name. It's called aphantasia. And listen, it's not a disorder, it's not a defect or anything like that. It's just a different way of thinking. It's defined by the inability to voluntarily create mental pictures. You know what a star is, you can describe it perfectly, you could probably draw one, you just can't see it inside your head. So you might be wondering, how does this different way of thinking actually affect people out in the real world? Well, a recent survey of 2,000 people decided to look into that exact question. And what they found was this surprisingly strong pattern, especially when it came to what people did for a living. The survey showed this incredibly clear trend. Turns out, people with aphantasia are way more likely to work in STEM fields, we're talking science, technology, engineering, and math, than you'd find in the general population. And that, of course, brings up a huge question. Why? Why would having a blank mind's eye mean you're more likely to be good at logical, data-driven work? What's the hidden connection there? Well, the theory goes that instead of thinking in pictures, the mind with aphantasia just leans into its other strengths. It gets really good at seeing abstract connections, spotting patterns in data, and just understanding the pure logic of complex systems. I mean, those are the exact skills that are the bedrock of coding or engineering or even theoretical physics. The focus just shifts from what something looks like to how it works. This leads us to this really brilliant metaphor for this way of thinking. It's not about painting a picture, it's about understanding a blueprint. This is a mind that's built on what you could call architectural logic. It sees the structural beams and the wiring of an idea, not just the pretty paint on the outside. Okay. So, a focus on logic and systems, that makes total sense for STEM fields. But here's where this story takes a really fascinating, kind of counterintuitive turn. What about the arts? How could someone possibly write a novel, something we think of as so visual, if they can't actually see the world they're creating in their own mind? Well, it turns out they don't try to create a gallery of paintings for the reader. Instead, authors with aphantasia often build something more like a vast labyrinth of information. Their creative superpower isn't in visual description. It's in weaving together these incredibly intricate plots, complex character relationships, and worlds with airtight rules and systems. So you can almost think of two types of authors. First, you have the painter. They use all these lush sensory details to show you a scene, to make you see it. And then you have the architect. They use complex plotting and logical world building to construct a world for you to figure out and navigate. Think about those authors known less for flowery language and more for their incredibly detailed histories or political systems. Neither one is better, they're just different creative blueprints.
And what that means is that reading a book by an architect author is a totally different experience. You're not just a spectator in a gallery looking at a finished painting. You're an active explorer who's been handed a map, and your job is to piece together the logic of this new world. The fun comes from understanding a brilliant system, not just seeing a pretty picture.
So let's just trace that path one more time. It all starts with aphantasia, which is just a different cognitive style. That style often leads to a mind that's really good at abstract, systems-based thinking. And then, that very same logical skill becomes this powerful engine for creativity, letting someone build a story the same way an architect would build a city. Ultimately, what this all really shows us is that there's no single right way to be creative. It's not about having one specific kind of brain. It's all about playing to the unique strengths of the mind you've got, whether that's painting pictures or designing blueprints. And this leaves us with one last big question. What is a story to you? Is it a picture that you're meant to see? Or is it a world that you're meant to solve? Your answer just might tell you a little something about the architect or the painter living inside your own head.